For part one of our first interview, Dr. Stephen Lindheim chats with Dr. Victor Gomel. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy what we think are valuable lessons about our history, sparking innovation, and newer surgical applications of reproductive surgery.
Hi, I'm Steve Lindheim, and today we're honored to have Victor Gomel to talk with us and chat about his history and some of the legacy that he leaves behind. I'd like to introduce Dr. Gomel. He holds the rank of Professor Emeritus in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Faculty of Medicine at the University of British Columbia. He served as the chairperson of his department for 15 years, during which the department was greatly expanded and attained international recognition. Dr. Gomel is internationally known for his pioneering work in both gynecologic microsurgery and operative laparoscopy. Through his experimental work over the many decades, was designed to elucidate the functions of the fallopian tube and to better understand the tubal and peritoneal factors that cause infertility. He also established an IVF program in Vancouver in 1981, and under his leadership, this program was the first to achieve success, resulting in the live birth on December 25, 1983, of the first baby in Canada. Dr. Gomel is also responsible for the establishment of a master's and PhD program, Reproductive and Developmental Sciences, within his department, which has been operative since 1984. Dr. Gomel has also authored a long list of scientific articles published in the prestigious international journals, including numerous book chapters and multiple edited books. His most recent book is Reconstructive Reproductive Surgery and Gynecology in 2010, with a second updated edition that was published in 2019. He is also on multiple editorial boards of important international scientific journals. He has received honorary memberships and awards of excellence from numerous international scientific societies and universities, including his own Faculty of Medicine, in recognition of his pioneering work in reproductive medicine and operative laparoscopy. Dr. Gomel is also the recipient of the prestigious distinction Chevalier of the Order of Legion d'Honneur, awarded by Jacques Chirac, President of France, in 2003. In 2008, he was elected Fellow of the World Academy of Art and Science, and in 2009, he received the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa from the Simon Fraser University. He has been awarded honorary membership by the European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology in 2012 and the AAGL in 2015. In 2013, he was awarded the prize Jacques Célèbre in reproduction for the National Academy of Medicine in France. He has since been elected as foreign member to the same academy. He was awarded the rank of Professor Honoris Causa by the National Medical Research Center for Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Perinatology of the Russian Federation. And lastly, in 2018, he received the Medal of the Order of Valor from the government of Cameroon. It is with great pleasure that I welcome Dr. Gomel. Welcome, Dr. Gomel. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Good morning, Stephen. It's very nice to chat with you.
Well, we really appreciate this, and it is the vision of this podcast and video is to gain some insights regarding you and how you see where we were and where we're going, and maybe impart a few lessons to our audience today. But the first question that I would very much like to ask is the following. Who is this handsome man?
It's me, the young Victor.
Tell me, where were you and how old were you there?
This was obviously in Vancouver, and I would be about 32 years old.
Wow, you're a very handsome man there. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Where were you born? When were you born? And tell me a little bit about your family.
I was born in Turkey, in the Aegean coast, in a city called Izmir. If you look at Izmir, when I was born, I am now an old boy, that was the most advanced in terms of modernity. It was a very international city. When I went to college, there was all kinds of people there. Locals, there were French, Italian, Greeks. It was like United Nations.
Victor, tell me, where did you do your medical training, your undergraduate work?
my family was a middle-class family. My father was an incredible person, pathologically honest, very much respected, spoke several languages, and he believed in education. He would do anything for us to get good education, to the extent that while at public school, they would take a person who had to be a boy who had to be 7 years of age. At 5 years of age, I knew two languages already. My mother tongue is French, and then I knew Turkish. And he ended up, although probably it was beyond his means, he put me to the only private school in the city. I found later that because of who he was, they only took half tuition. So I was already 2 years ahead. Then I went to a French college, Collège Saint-Joseph, and there most kids had to go to learn French to a class before they actually, it was a year lost just to learn French. So I didn't need to do this year. So suddenly I was at 10 and a half years of age with people who were 2 or 3 years my older. Then I went to medical school. Medical school was a magnificent school because I was there. This is in Istanbul, and the Istanbul Medical School, before the World War, had maybe you heard that Turkey had a president who was very visionary, and he took a lot of professors. You see, Einstein sent a letter to the president offering him some 40 professors for them to come to Turkey. The letter was sent from Paris, and I have a copy of the letter. I can send it to you.
That would be great.
Yeah, and but the letter didn't go to the president. It went to the prime minister, who sent it to the Minister of Education, and the Minister of Education replied that it was against the law or something like this. But when eventually the president got information that that letter was there, he phoned Einstein. He wanted him to come, but he already had a contract with Princeton. He told them that. And he brought 300 professors and completely changed the Istanbul University with these people, giving each of them a translator. And I ended up having the last years of these people. And they were, you couldn't believe the inspiration you got to them. If you have time, I'll give you a little example, but this is making me talk too long. For example, the Faculty of Medicine was 6 years, and it had initially physics, biochemistry, all of that. And the physics professor was a genius. He would, for everything he would do on stage, we had a big amphitheater, a huge stage, and in stage he would do experiments. The last lesson was on quantum physics. And this man, after the lecture, he did an experiment. He took from a record player, he took the vibrations, passed them through a water bath and various places. And then we saw on the left side of the screen, the lamp kept on and off lighting, and that was taken with a screen on the other side of the stage, and it passed through various places, water bath and so on, and then from a speaker we heard La Vie en Rose.
Okay.
La Vie en Rose is Life in Pink, sang by this famous French singer. And then the man let us listen to the whole song, and then he starts saying, you are young, yes, life is pink, but life could be pink even when you are 60 years old, 70 years old. And he probably was 65 or 70 years old. He says, but you have to keep your child in you, your curiosity. I mean, the stuff he said, wasn't physics.
Right.
He was telling you how to live. I finished medical school at 22 years of age. And then, again, my life revolves around chance encounters. One of the chance encounters, you see, in those days, between Izmir and Istanbul, the shortest time by which you could go was 22 hours. I can go from here to Izmir now in 15 hours. And that little space was 22 hours. You would take a train at 9 o'clock in the morning from Izmir. You would arrive at the Bandırma, which is Marmara Seas on the south. And a boat, choo-choo boat, would take you at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you would arrive in Istanbul at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., depending on the speed of the boat. So, I was there alone, and I had to work to also, be able to live, because, my father told me he can give me so much a month. And 2 or 3 months later, I told him, send me half.
You're a good man.
So, and medical school, I truly enjoyed. And at the same time, I worked. And despite being in medical school, because I had to leave always, unless there was that I had to leave to do, for example, cadaver dissection or something, I had to leave school at about 3 o'clock, to earn a living. And my friends were, yes, I had friends from medical school, but the ones with whom I stayed had nothing to do with medicine. They were poets, they were writers, they were businessmen, so I was doing medicine. I was getting books from France because of my French to learn better. But at the same time, I had a lot of French literature and Turkish literature.
Tell me, when did you come to North America, and tell me about your family?
My family stayed there. While I was in medical school, the last 2-3 years, I was working for a small factory that made medicines, but not antibiotics, but other things. And I would go to visit doctors to, as people here that visit your office to tell you about drugs. And summertime, I went to a city, and in the train, someone sat behind me, was a professor from University of Laval in Quebec, who was a professor of ancient civilizations. He was interested in Greek and Roman civilizations and came to see the sites in Turkey because they are. So anyway, where I was going, he was going a little further to see a site there. So, we started to talk. He asked me a lot of things about Turkey and so on. And he stayed with me the night till next day while I was seeing doctors. It doesn't take long. When you have a medical rosette, they know you're a medical student and they would take you. So this guy left, and we with all that I spoke to him about Turkey, he created a tiny little book. He sent it to me, and a few months later he said, will you be this summer in Istanbul? I will come. So he came, and he told, and by then he was elected dean of the Faculty of Letters.
What year is this?
This would be 1956.
Okay, so keep going.
Okay, and he tells me, look, he says, now I become dean and so on. He said, we in Canada, we need people like you. He said, why don't you write a letter to the dean of the Faculty of Medicine? And he gave me his name. So I wrote a letter Oh, he said, I said, Dr. Maurice Lebel told me to, and so on. So the letter I got was not very positive. He says, oh, for a foreign graduate, this is very onerous. I even looked at I knew what honors was, but I still looked at the dictionary and I didn't answer. But in the end, I did come to Canada. And I came to Canada in 1958, June.
That's when I was born.
So that's why I am older.
So tell me, you came to Canada in 1958. Where? Tell me about your family.
My father was a unique individual. He married late because his father died and he left him 6 siblings from another mother. Because when my father was 12 years of age, his mother died. And the father got married, had 6 children, and died. And my dad had to look after all of them. When I was born, they were a stepmother, his mother, stepmother, and I think 1 aunt and 2 uncles in the house. And my mother was a unique woman to accept this. So, in other words, he was an exemplary man. He was so honest that one morning, I was 10 years of age, we are walking in the street and I see a wallet. So my father picks it up. There is no identity. There is full of money and I am very happy. And my father says, this is not our money, somebody's money. So he goes to the police station. I am telling my father, I said, the police will take the money. He says, it's not my money. The police, it's his job to look after this. So he goes, we enter. He asked for the chief. They said, what do you want? He says, look, I want to see the chief. So we go to his room. He says, sir, I found this money. There is no identity. I will leave it with you, but I want you to give me a statement that I gave you. We will count the money and you will give me a statement that you took this money to find whoever. That's what he did.
Very honorable. Do you have any children? Do you have any grandchildren?
Yes. So I had 2 siblings, my own. I have a sister and a young brother, both very successful. So I got married. I came to Canada, as I told you. I stayed in Montreal 4 years. I did a rotating internship, which was required. Then on my own, I wanted to do general surgery for a year. At St. Mary's Hospital, the GYN chief was a lovely man, and he treated me like I was his son. He wanted me actually to do obstetrics and gynecology and to go back and work there. So what happened is I did the second year was general surgery. Then I went to the McGill program to do 2 years of obstetrics and gynecology, and then I had to do some basic sciences. So during the McGill course of 2 years, they rotated us. And my first rotation, they sent me to the St. Mary's Hospital again. And, it was wonderful because, I had learned a hell of a lot of surgery. And the chief resident, who was in the department of Mastroianni, they didn't do much surgery there. So I scored very well. And, really he wanted me to come back. Anyway, during that time, I wrote my exams. And 2 years later, I could practice medicine if I wanted. So I decided to register somewhere that I could because they were selling me life insurance. And when I found what life insurance was, I said, this is death insurance. I don't need death insurance. And I thought that my insurance would be if something, if I need to earn, because in those days, although we worked very hard, the money they gave us was an honorarium. It wasn't sufficient for me to rent a 20 square meter place. I lived 5 years in in whatever hospital I was, in one of the on-call room. They had, the rooms had always, obviously, toilet and shower and everything. So 5 years like this. After the second year, I decided to see the rest of Canada and to register as a physician in a province so that if I needed, I could do general practice and earn some money. So I decided to do that in Alberta. And in the interim, I visited several cities, went to their College of Physicians and Surgeons, some of them, to see what was going on. And when I came to Vancouver, because one of the student nurses in Montreal was from Vancouver, told me to see his mom. She had sent a letter to the mother, and she said she would be delighted to show me around. She told me, look, my mother is lovely, don't bother with my father. So to make a long story short, I came to Vancouver. The mother took me around for a couple of days, told me to go and have dinner on a Thursday or Friday, I don't remember, into her house. But then, as I arrived there with a little some flowers I bought going there, she opened the door. She said, oh, Victor, I forgot we are invited to a doctor's place today. And I was shy in those days. I said, okay, I come another day. No. She took me like she was my mother by my hand. She took me we walked to someone else's house. And she says, we will give the flowers to them. So we enter the house. She says, I'll give the flowers. And she disappeared. I never moved from there. So whoever talked to me, I talked. And then the host came. He says, oh, they tell me we have a young man here and so on. He started quizzing me. And then after he quizzed, and I told him what I was doing, he said to me, you will need a year of basic sciences. Yes, I said, I know that. And I left that to the end so that I could study for the exams. He says, I am the head of department of pathology at the hospital and at university. He says, why don't you come and do it here? So I came to Vancouver for a year and I am still there.
Well, that's very good.
I have 2 kids, 1 daughter who is vice president of marketing in a big company, and I have a son who is a lawyer and very successful.
Can you tell me about your wife?
My wife was a lovely woman who insisted to marry me. Everything was very well until, let's say, 7 or 8 years after the marriage. She completely changed. Depression, this and that. And she started to tell me, let's get divorced. But I didn't want my kids to live anywhere else. So until my kids told us we should separate, and until they were 18 years of age, I didn't leave the house. And it was very difficult for me because that was the time when they forced me to become head.
Did you ever remarry?
I never remarried. I had 2 kids. That was enough. Obviously, I had friends who wanted to get married. I said, no.
Tell me the names of your children.
My daughter is Monique and my son is David. Monique, I put the name. My daughter was born when I had a South African, and I had, before I became head, I used to operate 3 days a week from morning till evening at the hospital. And you see, Monique was born then and she needed a forceps and so on. So between 2 cases, I was able to see the birth. When David was born, I had to wait for the lady who was going to come to stay with her, and the driver couldn't find the house. By then he was born, and when I came to see David, the mother had already given the name.
Very interesting.
I have 2 granddaughters, one from Monique. David isn't married yet, but he has someone that looks serious, and Monique has a lovely 3-year-old girl, beautiful kid, and a 10-month other girl, also very, very...
These are your grandchildren? These are your grandchildren or great-grandchildren?
No. These are my grandchildren.
Wow, that's fabulous. That's wonderful.
Yeah, Monique is my daughter, and David is my son, and Monique has 2 girls.